Welcome to Reddit After Hours. This is r/TrueOffMyChest, where OP is devastated to find out that his wife, who was pregnant, has been cheating on him for months leading up to giving birth to their first child. Our first Reddit post comes from Known Sort 732, titled, "I quit my nanny job and I can't bring myself to tell my mom why. I feel like I can't talk to anyone about this. I can't even think about it without crying. I don't know how to deal with any of this. I had a job looking after the child of a family friend. The child isn't a baby, but they're still pretty young. I was originally supposed to work as their nanny until the child was old enough to go to school. My mom knows the kid is on, and I've babysat for the aunt before, which is how I ended up getting this job. The dad has a job that allows him to work from home, but most of the time he is stuck in his office all day, so I really only ever saw him in passing. If I spent any significant period of time with him, the mom was always there. He never really gave me a reason to be afraid of him, and I didn't really think anything of being alone with him in the house with the little one all day. The few times that he came out of his office to handle the nap time routine or play with the little one for a little while, we didn't really talk much. I feel like I'm over explaining myself, but I don't know. A few weeks ago, the little one fell asleep in the living room just before I was going to put them down for a nap. I decided to just get comfy on the couch and work on one of my midterms. The dad came out of his office and at one point sat down near me, and it was really fine at first. He was just reading a book. I was typing on my computer, and even though the silence felt a little uncomfortable, it really wasn't bad or anything. I don't want to be specific about what happened, but he pushed me down on the floor and I didn't do anything to stop him. I just froze. I said no a few times, but I couldn't make myself run or fight or do anything else. I just couldn't stop thinking about the fact that his child was sleeping 4 feet away from us. I thought about how scared they would probably be to wake up and see their dad hurting me like that, so I just didn't say anything. When it was all over, I called the mom, and I said I had a family emergency and I needed to leave early. I didn't tell her the truth. I didn't say anything to the dad. I just left. I feel guilty for just walking out like that, and I haven't gone back since. I haven't answered any of her calls. My mom is kind of mad at me for quitting in such a rude way, but I don't know how to tell her or anyone about this. I don't even know how to deal with this. I'm either crying or feeling nothing, and it's making me crazy. Every time I think about it, I feel like I can't breathe. None of this feels real, but it also feels very real at the same time. I'm sorry if nothing here makes sense. I just needed to get it out, and I can't get my brain to work properly enough to be coherent sometimes. OP, I know this is a lot easier said than done sometimes, but if I were you, I would tell your mom exactly what happened, and I would go to the police and try to get something done about this. From what you wrote, you clearly told him no multiple times, and he continued to force himself on you. He deserves to be punished for that, and most of all, you deserve your justice and, whatever type of healing you need, whether that be therapy or whatever. I hope you get what you need, and I hope you're okay from this going forward, OP. I hope you find your peace in all this. Our next Reddit post comes from Miserable AD 8764, titled, "My Christian parents still think that I live in sin with my boyfriend, and we've been married for 13 years. For context, I am not close with my parents, but we do talk. My mental health is better as long as I keep them at a distance. Before I, a 49-year-old female, met my boyfriend / now husband, let's call him Sam, who's a 50-year-old male, my parents told me that they would never accept me choosing a partner who smoked and was not Christian and didn't have an education, etc. Then I met Sam. He had just returned from backpacking the world for years. He had no education, smoked to packs of Lucky Strikes a day, smoked weed, had piercings, and didn't want a steady job. He didn't own anything, and not only was he not a Christian, he thinks that religion is the cause of much of the evil in this world and is actively against all forms of religion. He was exactly what I needed. He moved into the flat that I shared with 3 other people. We had one bedroom each, and we shared a kitchen, living room, and bathroom. We were all about 25 to 26 years old at the time. After about 5 months, we started having passionate hugging with each other and eventually became friends with benefits. After a year of being friends with benefits, we realized that we had feelings for each other. My parents started sending me letters talking about choosing the narrow path and not being tempted and going to hell. We moved to a smaller flat with just me and Sam. We committed to each other. Sam got a steady job, and sometimes he even worked 3 jobs and made as much as I did in my better paying job because he worked so much. We ended up buying a flat together. I realized more and more that he wasn't just good in bed and a good friend, he was really a great guy. He's the one that you want in your corner when things are not so great and you really need someone that you can trust. I was, and still am, head over heels in love with him. His family was the opposite of mine, all atheists and not very close. I had felt suffocated by my family in my teens and in my early 20s. He had been more or less abandoned by his parents when he was 16. His parents divorced and both moved in with new partners, and unfortunately, both not wanting him to come along. He was allowed to stay in the flat that he grew up in, though, but he was alone, only getting some money for food from his father, and his father checking up on him 1 time a week. As soon as he turned 18, he was on his own, and they sold the old flat that he was living in. Sam essentially raised himself, decided his own morals and values and what was important to him. And he is just such a great, empathetic, caring guy. I was always told growing up that non-Christians had bad morals, and that clearly isn't true. So, 13 years ago, we got married quietly and didn't tell anyone. None of our parents know, actually. Our parents still haven't even met, and I always plan to keep it that way. It's too much of a cultural divide, although we are from the same country, all are white, and are all middle class. My parents ignore Sam most of the time. They invite me to come over and invite me to stay over for Christmas, but I always say no, I'm not leaving Sam alone, especially over the holidays. We want to celebrate that together, and that makes them immediately drop it. They can't have us sleep in the same bed in their house, although we've lived together for almost 23 years. And because I have a bit of childhood trauma and bad memories in that house, I never want to stay over there anyway, so it's kind of a win-win. I will never tell my parents that I'm actually married. OP, kudos to you. They say that the best revenge is a life well lived, and it sounds like you're succeeding at exactly that, and you have the life that you always wanted with essentially the person that you've always dreamed of. So kudos to you, OP. I'm happy for you. Our next Reddit post comes from Not a Fan of Milk, titled, "Found out that my wife has been cheating on me. We have a 6-week-old baby together." So my wife and I have been together for nearly 8 years and married for 3. We have a 3-year-old son and a newborn. We have a loving relationship where we're best friends, have great communication, and amazing and regular passionate hugging, which has just started again following the pregnancy. All in all, I would say that we had a very healthy relationship. Almost 2 years ago now, I uncovered my wife's affair. I picked up her phone to use it for my son because I didn't have mine handy and saw a flirtatious message between her and her work colleague. Let's just call him Jay. I immediately challenged my wife, and she said that she was just being flirty because he was drunk and the message made her feel uncomfortable. I asked to see the rest of the conversation, but she had deleted it because of how uncomfortable she had felt. I had some red flags, but no reason to truly disbelieve her, so we talked through it and I tried to let it go. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more going on. I did the horrible thing of checking through her phone and indeed her deleted photos. I found some pictures of her and Jay kissing. I immediately brought this to her and asked what was going on. She admitted that she had been having an affair with Jay for 2 months. They had kissed and masturbated each other once, but that was all. It was mostly an emotional affair. She said that she had been having a crisis since she turned 30 earlier that year and was just struggling mentally. She was feeling old, and that's when Jay had shown an interest in her. It made her feel sexy again, and it was exciting. She wasn't in love with Jay, but just felt trapped in the affair because he was in love with her, and if it got out, she could lose her job because she's in a higher ranking position than him. I asked her whether she chose me and our life or him, and she said that she chose us. Fast forward a year, and my wife and I are discussing having another child. We moved on a lot since I discovered the affair, and we had actually become a lot closer as a result. We fell pregnant quickly, but the pregnancy itself was tough because she had hyperemesis, which is a severe pregnancy morning sickness. This wrecked her both physically and mentally. This was when I noticed her getting closer to Jay again, but it seemed to just be a friendship. I was skeptical, but believed my wife when she said that she had regrets about the original affair. My wife was very open and honest about her friendship with Jay and revealed a lot to me, so I didn't feel any need to doubt her, especially as we were having another child together. Her friendship with Jay was up and down, and he kept pushing her away, especially when he found out that she was pregnant. I put this down to him still having feelings for my wife and being heartbroken or something that she had fully moved on. Our baby girl was born in January of 2025, and my wife and I were a firm team, and all seemed well. She went on maternity leave, and we coped with the transition to having 2 children. It was at this time that Jay completely distanced himself from my wife, which she again told me all about. She felt upset about it, but she said that she didn't care because she said that she had her family to look after. And again, I believed her, foolishly. About a month into her maternity leave, I came upon my wife texting her cousin. I walked up behind her while doing errands and saw that she had screenshotted a message to Jay that she had sent earlier that day saying that this was the longest they had gone without talking and that she missed him. I told her that I thought this was completely inappropriate and I didn't like the emotional weight of her saying that she missed him. She told me that it wasn't in any way other than a friendship, and for whatever reason, I started to get my doubts about what had been going on between Jay and my wife. A couple of weeks later, our family traveled to Rome to spend time with my wife's family. She's Italian and she grew up there. She went out with her cousin one night, and I felt compelled to check the notes on her iPad because I knew that sometimes she wrote down thoughts there. I found essentially a diary entry or perhaps a draft message to Jay where she said that she doesn't do friends with benefits, and while the physical parts of their relationship were fun, it wasn't worth the risk if there wasn't more to it. She also said that she still loved him, but couldn't commit if he didn't love her, and that she would just stick with me if she had to. This entry was on December 28th. The next morning, I found a moment when my wife left her phone, and I quickly checked her WhatsApp. In the locked messages section, I found her conversation with Jay, and the night before they were, quote, sexting. I didn't get much time with her phone, but I had seen enough, and I can't imagine that sexting is the furthest they've gone during this affair. I was, and still am, so devastated, as this was only a couple days ago, and I have no idea what to do. I want to challenge her right now with a view to know what's been going on and then just end everything. I would get on a plane and just go back home. I'm so confused because my wife and I went for dinner last night and it was just us, no kids. We had an amazing time and told each other how much we loved one another. This is true on my part, even if I'm still so hurt by her right now. I don't know whether to wait until we get home or just forget about it all and see what happens. I don't think I can move past this, though, especially as she was cheating on me throughout the pregnancy with our child. I do have my doubts now whether my daughter is even mine, but I think she's mine. I'm so lost and in so much pain, and I have so many questions. I love our life. I love our children. If I end things, all of that will end, and I won't be able to see my kids as much. It feels better to get this off my chest, so thank you and sorry for the spurge, but I just don't know what to do. OP, I really don't want to sandbag you here, but what did you expect to happen? She had a previous affair with this person, and you just kind of let her return to work and continue to be friends with this person and just assume that she was just going to cut it off and not have the affair again? Like, she was already dishonest with you once and already went behind your back to have the affair once. So when you just kind of blindly let her go back to that friendship, like, and you knew that she was texting him and still being friends with him, you just expected her not to do it again. Like, I'm confused. Like, I don't want to minimize your pain or anything like that, or the trust that you have in your wife. But I mean, that was a recipe for disaster from the very beginning. And like, you don't know what to do. Like, at one point, it sounds like you know exactly what to do. Like, you should have just gone on a plane and left her that second. She's cheated on you twice now. And like, usually I read stories about like men cheating on their spouses like during their pregnancy, which is like horrible and awful, and like super rare to hear that she's cheating on you during like her own pregnancy. Like, that kind of blows my mind in and of itself. But like, this is dead in the water. You have to stop letting yourself be a doormat and letting her walk all over you. At some point, you need to have some self-respect and just leave her and do what's good for you. Do the whole co-parenting thing. Your kids will be better for it. Maybe not better for it, but you need to show them that you have to have some self-respect for yourself. And you can't just let people hurt you like this, OP. I hope you come to your senses one day and you end up leaving her, OP. Our next Reddit post is from StillDog6682, titled, "My husband is having a baby with another woman." Me and my husband have been married for over a decade. We had a child quite young who is away at college now, and all in all, we had a great marriage. We were each other's first love, and within that, the only person that the other person had ever slept with. Roughly 2 years ago, we mutually decided to open the marriage. We've always been a very vanilla pair, and our passionate hugging had become less frequent as the years went on. We each had a few dates here and there, but nothing serious or ever going very far, until Emma came into the picture. Now, Emma is everything that I'm not. I'm very short and I have a mom bod, and I'm very introverted and have an almost anxious personality. Emma is tall, long leg, and shaped like an hourglass figure with muscle in all the right spots. She's the life of the party, and my husband began to see Emma about a year ago. I returned home one night and I walked in on them in the living room. Neither of us had ever brought anyone else to the home at this point. I apologized profusely, and I could tell that my husband was embarrassed. Emma told me as sweetly as I've ever been told to do anything before, "It's okay, sweetheart, go sit over there," pointing at the recliner a mere couple feet from where the two were on our couch, and she said, "You can leave when we're done." That's how it all started, and soon I was watching whenever Emma came over, and it just grew from there. I needed to make sure that the house was in tip-top shape for whenever she came over. I greeted her at the door to take her boots off, and all of this I actually didn't mind that much. She would become rough with me when I didn't comply, and this kind of made me uneasy, but it was infrequent enough that I kind of let it slide. My husband never defended me either, but he also would never participate in her being rough with me. Last week, I was sat down by the two of them, both of them looking so pleased, and my heart just sank. He was leaving me, I thought. I was surprised by this, and Emma had been around a bit less in the last couple weeks and hadn't been rough with me for the same length of time. What they told me instead is something that I don't even know right now how to properly handle or make work in my mind. Emma is pregnant. My heart stopped. What are people going to think is all I could imagine. My social circle, our family, they knew none of this. I mustered a mere, "Are you going to keep it?" And she just laughed in my face. She sat on my husband's lap and said, "Well, I'm too busy and young to properly raise a baby. So that's why you and R, who is my husband, are gonna raise it." I began to cry. My head was spinning. I cried that I just couldn't. The people wouldn't understand in our lives. She told me firmly that it wasn't a choice. This last week, I've cried and I've screamed at my husband, and he just simply disagrees with me. He says that the decision is already made. He said that I'm a housewife. I have no income and no immediate family anywhere close. Now I'm just so lost. No one else knows about this yet, and I'm just deciding what I'm going to do to raise this baby that isn't mine in the years that are supposed to be for me. Or should I just run away? Maybe try and convince Emma and my husband that this isn't a good idea? Thank you all for listening, whoever you are. I don't have anyone to turn to in my real life, so this kind of helps. That seems like a very drastic turn from an open marriage to a hey, you're going to raise my baby with my open marriage partner. That sounds like an insane leap to me. You say that you don't have any family close, but that would lead me to believe that you do have family somewhere. OP, you agree to open marriage, which, something I would never do, but, I don't judge anyone else for it if, that's your thing, right? But you didn't agree for your husband to get emotionally invested into anyone and to have a kid with anyone. So at, the very, very worst, I think that, it's perfectly reasonable for you to, jump ship and try to go to whatever family's house that you can get to, or maybe you can call someone and someone can help get you a ticket there or something. I don't know, but OP, I wouldn't at all blame you for leaving in this situation. And I almost kind of think it's what you should do. It sounds like they're being totally manipulative of you and trying to, make you and just pawn this responsibility off of this child onto you, which is completely unfair. You wanted an open marriage. You didn't want another child in your life. So, OP, that sounds like an insane situation to be in, but I hope you find a way past it, OP. That was Reddit After Hours, bringing you r/TrueOffMyChest. Thank you all so much for listening, and if you like these stories, like and subscribe as we post a new Reddit video almost every single day.